All right, another JAT Drive where I tell you some stories about my life and hopefully give you a little insight into voiceover as well as me and learning all about somebody else so you can learn maybe even something about yourself. Look at that, I'm making it all up as I go. It sounds intelligent though, doesn't it? All right, well, I just came from an appointment, not a voiceover session, but I'm down here in Los Angeles for my allergist. Why the allergist, James? Because I have allergies. Most of us have allergies. My allergies got intensified after a certain thing that happened to me in my life about 12 years ago. And for those of you that may have watched my show, Talking to Myself, my one-man stage show, or it's called Obi-Wan and Beyond, whenever I perform it at Disney Hollywood Studios in Florida, which I did for many years, 5 years. And in that show, at the end of the show, after I do all these voices, I tell you about how there was a point in time in my life where I actually lost my voice. And I lost it due to black toxic mold poisoning that I got because of a house that we had. And I tell this story in the show, and it's very short. You know, I have about 5 minutes to kind of summarize that and then other parts of my life that were affected by it and that whole story and then the positive spin to it at the end of the show. So here I have a vlog where I'm driving with you and you're taking a drive. I figure I'll expand that story, and because a lot of people ask, they want to know more about what really happened and how it happened, and you know, and people are fascinated also with, I think, this not fascinated like, oh, I'm fascinated by people are interested in knowing about mold and how it affects the body and such too, because I think a lot of people are affected by it and they may not know it. So when you go back to 2004, my wife and I bought this new house because we were about to adopt our daughter from China. And for any of you that follow me on YouTube or Twitter or Instagram and such, you know, my daughter is a wonderful part of my life that I talk about quite a bit. She's an amazing young person. She's 12 years old now, and she changed our lives, and adoption changed our lives. Adoption is an amazing, wonderful thing. I highly recommend it for anyone, not just people that cannot have children like my wife and myself, which we could not naturally have children ourselves. So adoption was really a wonderful alternative for us and a way to become parents. And I have to tell you, outside of marrying my wife, it was the best thing I've ever done in my life. Those two things are the best two decisions I've ever made in my life. Those, and they all kind of lead up to my faith too. So my faith is, of course, the first and foremost biggest change in my life, and then my wife, and then my daughter, and all of that. So sorry, I digress because I get into these places of pondering the love of my life and the loves of my life while I divert a big traffic jam also is what I was doing, because I was looking ahead. I'm down here in Los Angeles and there was a huge traffic jam that I just taking side streets now in Beverly Hills. It's lovely here. For those of you that have never been to Beverly Hills, we're in Beverly Hills right now. And the houses, I don't know if you can see any of them, but they are all mansions that I'm driving past right now. Most of these houses, anywhere from $5 to $25 million. It's crazy. Anyways, big diversion there. But back to the segue of talking about houses. I did not spend $5 to $25 million on the house that we bought, but we spent a lot, I'll say that. And the house ended up being quite a money pit. What do I mean by that? Well, it had everything wrong, from foundation issues, where the foundation of the house was not built right, to electrical problems, shorts and things that weren't wired right, dangerously wired, plumbing issues where pipes weren't fitted right, the wrong sizes, took 10 minutes to get any hot water anywhere in the house. We had a gas leak that we very, very easily could have blown up in. The gas company came out and went, "We're amazed. We don't know how you didn't explode with this gas leaking the way that it was for as long as it was." We had air conditioning ducting issues where they ran the air conditioner while they built the house, and so it was filled with like 2 inches thick of garbage, soot, dust, all sorts of stuff in there, and polluted the entire air conditioning system that had to be cleaned out. Pretty much any problem you could find. And you go, James, you bought this house, you had an inspection, you know, what the heck? It was back in 2004 when, if you ever watched the movie The Big Short, you see that the real estate market, the bubble was needing to burst, because it was insane especially out here in California, what people were doing and selling houses and flipping houses and making gigantic profits and ripping people off left and right. And I was, along with my wife, one of the lucky people that got ripped off. We got really ripped off by a realtor / attorney that knew how to keep it in the courts for a very long time. And after flipping a house that she made a tremendous profit on from us. And so anyways, it was quite a mess. The inspector and the realtor at the time when the market was like that, they weren't doing their jobs. They just weren't doing their jobs. They were looking at houses kind of going, yeah, this looks good. All right, no, this is good. And it was new construction in that it was a flip. It was an old house built in the 40s that had been completely redone and added on to and stuff. And when you looked at it, you went, wow, this looks beautiful. It was in the perfect neighborhood down in Los Angeles here. Usually we've lived in the outskirts in the suburbs, and that's where we are now again. But this was the opportunity to live out here in the heart of LA for us, and to build, to be in a wonderful house that we thought was built, you know, well, to raise our daughter in and start our family. And again, totally wrong on that. When we finally had it truly inspected after we had already bought it by a real inspector, not the one that the realtors put in, there was a 187-page report of all the things that were wrong with this house. We called it the Home Depot house because everywhere we went in it, we found receipts up in the attic and such from Home Depot, and everything had SKUs that they built the whole place from just parts at Home Depot. Not that you can't build a house at Home Depot, but they did not use good, strong building parts. They used whatever cheap stuff they could find to put it together. And the contractor wasn't a real contractor, who skipped town, and when we took it all to court, he was nowhere to be found. So anyways, this house, one of the things they did was they put 3-inch finishing nails into the drywall to hang the drywall instead of using drywall screws into the 2x4s. They just willy-nilly hammered them in wherever they could. And so they put nails through the pipes, the plumbing pipes throughout the walls in the house. And we found out 10 months later, as all the water was dripping slowly into the walls of the house through these pipes, because the nail goes into the pipe and then kind of seals it there for a little bit, and then it drips and drips and drips. You know, I got it. It's a chance to do my dripping sound. That's what happened. For the first 10 months we lived in the house, this water was dripping, and one day I walked into a room and saw a baseboard that looked like it was kind of wet or swollen. So I ran my hand down the wall to feel for moisture, and my hand just fell into the wall. It was that saturated, and so a big hole in the wall. And of course I did what anybody would do. I stuck my face in with a flashlight to look in and see what was happening there. And when I did that, I breathed in all the black mold that had been growing from the drip on all the wood and all the stuff. They found 6 types of mold in the wall. And they later, when I had blood tests done, they found all of those same 6 molds in my bloodstream. So it had compromised my immune system, and the black mold especially, that's the most dangerous one. If you ever suspect you have black mold, immediately get away from that area, close it up, call an expert in to help remediate that mold. Stay away from it. There's a lot of molds that will make you feel sick and will make you sick. Black mold is extremely serious, and through my years, 12 years now of dealing with all of that, I've heard all sorts of other people's stories dealing with it as well, and it's heartbreaking. What it does to your mind, it affects your mind, it affects your ability, your memory, your clarity of thinking, it gives you brain fog. The symptoms, the best way I can describe the symptoms that I had outside of the cold symptoms, you know, that felt like I was coming down with a cold and losing my voice, the other symptoms were not that dissimilar to Asperger's or autism. I became very, sensitive to touch. I became agitated easily by things, trouble concentrating on kind of like regular things, but I could put my mind on something and get very specific about one thing, but other things would irritate or agitate me in some ways. My focus and concentration, was spotty at times, and then other times very precise about other things. So, and then on top of that, I went from about 130 pounds or so, average kind of height, weight, weight for my height rather and such, to about 96, 97 pounds. I got very sick, couldn't eat, couldn't drink, couldn't sleep. And it felt like I was coming down with a cold all the time. I had this really sore throat and problems with my throat. And on February 13th, 2005, I woke up and I couldn't talk. There was no voice. This was in the height of my voiceover career really blossoming too. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, we were making the movie. Fred Flintstone, I had just gotten the job voicing Fred Flintstone. Fox, the promo work on Fox, I was doing. Obi-Wan Kenobi for the Clone Wars stuff was starting to build up and regain some momentum, but I had been voicing Obi-Wan for several years, since 2002 for the micro series and then other things. Johnny Test was just starting up, and so vocally I had quite a wide range of things that I needed to do. Huckleberry Hound, I was doing a lot of Huckleberry Hound stuff, a lot of different work, and I couldn't talk. So the next morning, because that was a Sunday, the next morning on Monday, I went to the doctor, and the doctor, who is an expert, big doctor out here in Hollywood, back in Beverly Hills, where I just was driving from, said, you got to stop talking. The only way to heal this is for you to stop and to take this medication and to do all this. And I didn't want to do medications for the rest of my life that were going to just kind of keep it at bay, and cortisone shots and steroids and all of that stuff. I just didn't want to do that. That didn't seem like that was going to be the healthiest way for me. So I found a holistic approach to it. But for several months, a good 3 months, I had no more than a croaky kind of voice that worked sometimes and other times didn't, depending on how well I could warm it up and do exercises. I worked with a fellow by the name of Gary Katona, who worked with the likes of Whitney Houston and the Three Tenors and Seal and all these wonderful singers and stuff. GaryKatona.com. You can go and see Gary's techniques. He has wonderful techniques. Some people would say they're what's the word? I'm trying to find a word talking about all this. That it's a controversial issue, ways of dealing with this, right? Because he looks at it as though your vocal cords are muscles and they need to be worked out and such, just like anything else, any other muscle in the body. So he helps you work those out and rebuild them and strengthen them. And I found that it really worked for me, as to where a lot of other vocal coaches and stuff talk about, the mask and projecting from there and doing everything from here, as opposed to, from the chords and all of that. Everybody all agrees, though, pull up from the diaphragm and all that. So I worked with Gary, and he helped me get my voice back. But also, I had to change my life. I had to change my diet. I had to change everything. While we were in the middle of a 2-year lawsuit to try and get out of this house, while we were in the middle of adopting our child from China, and the place that we had before this, we sold, and they had some issues there. After we sold, we were only in it for a very short amount of time, and they had some flooding because it was some of the biggest rainstorms in years, and they tried to sue us for flooding they had that we knew nothing about, and it was that got thrown out. The irony is, of course, being somebody else had something that from the house we had, and they tried to sue us, and then we were trying to get our money back and get out of the house that we were in, and both were blaming us, and it was a very crazy time. It was a hard time, and my health was the worst. I didn't know, if I was going to have my career anymore, because my voice was gone and I couldn't really use it the way I needed to and the way I was used to and the way I wanted to. And God bless my wife. She was there with me throughout the whole thing. When I changed my diet and went on a very strict macrobiotic diet and a Candida cleansing diet, because what happened is the mold created Candida in my system. If you don't know what Candida is, it is an overgrowth of bad bacteria in your body. You can get Candida from taking too many antibiotics and stuff and killing off all the good So you have good bacteria in your body and you have bad bacteria in your body. All of us have a little candida in our system. You want it to always stay very small. But if you eat too much junk, processed foods, sugars, all of that, don't take care of yourself, take too many antibiotics, candida can overgrow in your system as well. If you get exposed to mold like I did, candida can overgrow in your system as well. And it overgrew in my throat, of all places, and I lost my voice. So a lot going on in our lives at that time. And the one, like I say, the lawsuit on the house that we had was thrown out quickly because there was no case. There was no way anybody could have ever planned for the storms that had happened, and we had nothing to do with that. You know, we were in that place for a very short amount of time. But the place that we had bought and were in had all sorts of problems due to very shoddy construction, poor construction, and they flipped this house. You know, house flipping is very popular now. You watch all these shows. We certainly got a flop when we bought this flip, and it cost us a lot of money. It cost us, I hesitate in saying how much, but we lost over $250,000 in the house and in health and legal and everything. It was a very bad situation, and then we had to try to figure out how to get out of it. And eventually they bought the house back at the exact same price we bought it for, and we lost all our equity, and we lost everything there and had to start over. And it was very hard. It was very hard, and we were in the process of adopting our daughter and becoming new parents. And yeah, it was a tough time. So, but the good news is God always shines through and answers prayers if you ask him. That's what I have found in my life all the way through. And I know that, you know, many of you that watch my stuff are either, you know, atheists or believe in something different than I believe, and that's fine. I'm not judging anybody. Please know that when I tell you my story or I talk about God, that's my experience, that's my life, that's how I see it, and that's what gets me through. So it's my faith. My faith gets me through. And my faith got me through this. So I asked God on February 13th, 2005 to please help me with this, because this could be the worst day of my life, and I don't want it to be. I don't want this day to be a day of infamy in my life. 6 months later, we got the paperwork for our daughter, that we had been placed with a child to be adopted from China. And we got her picture, and we got her description and all of her paperwork and her story. And I looked down and noticed something very interesting there. February 13th, 2005, that was her birthday. It was the day she was born. So the day that I thought my life had changed for the worst, it had actually changed for the better. And my daughter was born, and I became a father, and my life was changed. I wouldn't find out until 6 months later. But to me, that was God's promise of saying, I got your back. You're all right. Everything's going to be okay. And it's kind of emotional because I literally am a block away from this house that got me mold poisoning right now. Where I'm driving right now, it's just right over there. And I drive past it a lot when I'm driving back and forth to jobs and such. And it's hard because that house changed our lives for the worse in so many ways. And my daughter's first few months, unfortunately, here we were still living in that house while we were trying to get out of it and dealing with a lawsuit. And so she lived, we had a very large walk-in closet there, and we built a nursery in that closet because she couldn't go in any of the other rooms because all the other rooms were taped off because of mold poisoning. My studio was infected with the mold. I had to throw out tens of thousands of dollars of soundproofing and equipment that got exposed to the mold. We had to have furniture specially cleaned and treated to get rid of any traces of dust particles that could have been from the mold within our house. We lost all sorts of furniture and belongings, and thankfully I've regained my health. But I still have allergies, and you can hear it in my voice now. It's kind of scratchy today. it's because the weather changes and stuff, and the trees bloom and the grass gets cut, and so I experience allergies. So that's where I was just coming from today, and I thought I'd share with you this story. You know, it's not the happiest story, but it is. It is in that had that never happened, let me give you the switch now and the little story I tell at the end of my stage show. So all that happened, all that was going on, and for 2 years we struggled with that. And we lost all of our equity. We ended up having to rent a house, and it took 7 years to get our finances back into a place where we could buy a house again and not have it be affected by credit and all of that stuff. And it took 12 years. It's been 12 years, and it's still an issue with my health. My immune system is permanently compromised from it. I have adrenal issues. I have problems where I have to, monitor my blood and my health on a regular basis. I have a fantastic doctor, Diana Schwartz. She's a specialist and an endocrinologist that works with specialized things, and she's written many books actually. And if you're somebody that struggles with say type 2 diabetes or anything like that, or wants to just get healthy, I highly recommend Diana Schwartzbein's books, namely the Schwartzbein Principle. I'm in a tunnel right now, so I hope I'm not too dark here. I hope you can still see me. The Schwartzbein Principle is a fantastic book that tells of her studies as a scientist, as a doctor, as an endocrinologist, studying the human body and the endocrine system and how people's bodies are affected by menopause, especially a lot of work with women. She works with my wife because my wife has some issues. Of course, we can't have children, and that has always come into play in her life. And she works with me because of the issues that I had due to the mold poisoning and such, and trying to get my health back. So, but the good side of all of it is the muscles that were built within my soul to become a better person, to become a better father, to become somebody that is aware of diet and what I put into my body and how that works. All of that came into play from getting sick like this. So I'm so grateful that I've been able to experience this, get to the other side of it, and to move forward in my life, and to learn as much as I have about diet, exercise, and balance within your life. So in that, you can't put a price on that. And it taught me so much, and I'm so grateful to God for getting me through these experiences in life as He has. So got a gigantic semi-truck that just cut in front of me here trying to get on the freeway. So excuse me while I do this. Okay, sometimes driving in LA, that's what you deal with. All right, now I'm on the freeway. Anyways, my life, my diet, the way I eat and such, I'll do a vlog specifically about that, but it's all organic foods, no processed foods, no alcohol, no dairy, no gluten, no sugar of any kind, no fruit. You go, what is left to eat, James? There's plenty. And I lead a very happy, healthy lifestyle now due to getting sick and realizing I needed to make some changes after that. Changes that have benefited me whether I'd gotten sick or not. They've made me a healthier, happier person. And so for all of you that have dealt with mold poisoning and such, my heart goes out to you, and my prayers are with you. And on that note, I thank all of you for taking the time to hang out with me, listen to my stories, and watch the vlogs. I hope you're also checking out Clone Wars Conversations and the JAT show. There hasn't been a lot of JAT shows, just the one. I've shot several, but I haven't produced them all because it does take a lot of time, and I'm shooting all this stuff on my own. So thanks for your patience, all of you that subscribe to the channel, and thanks for any of you that are watching JAT 365 on a regular basis. We've got not that much longer left in the year, so I'm still moving forward, and do a new video every day based on my book, JAT 365, which you can get at Amazon.com. Shameless plug. And also tell Titus a tale. Send me a joke. Shoot a video on your phone and send it to me via Twitter is probably the best, but Instagram or YouTube as well. You can post it to YouTube and send the link to me directly through my email on my website, jamesarnoldtaylor.com. Click on the JAT Show link and go and send me an email. Tell Titus a tale as the topic, which you can do in the drop-down menu, and send a link to a YouTube video that you shoot of you telling me a joke, or actually telling Titus a joke. Anyways, hope you subscribe to the channel. Hope you like all of this stuff. And I really appreciate you taking the time. Thanks so much.